This episode was co-produced by Startup Days, the Swiss networking and business event for startups, investors, enablers, and corporates. Check out startupdays.ch to learn more about this year's edition, taking place in Bern on May 14th, 2025. Again, that's startupdays.ch.
This discovery is bigger than Oculis because this discovery will help us to treat millions of patients where we do not have any treatment for them.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Sylvan.
Riad, very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you as a guest today.
Thank you, Sylvan.
You're the CEO of Oculis, a company focused on the development of topical treatments for ophthalmic diseases in the back and front of the eye. Before we talk about what that exactly means, I want to start with your personal background. You studied medicine for 7 years back in Algeria, but then you went on to study medical management in Paris instead of becoming a doctor. So I wonder, did you sort of change your mind halfway through and switched from medical to business?
Actually, I became a doctor. I finished completely in medicine. I started surgery. And then after 1 year of surgery, I always dreamed to do business. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. I did medicine because I am perhaps from the generation where we were listening to our parents more.
Yeah.
So I did medicine and no regret at all because I really learned a lot. And happy to come back to it after. But then I decided to take a sabbatical year during surgery and to go to do a master in medical management, which I did in Paris. And in the end of this master, I had to do an internship, mm-hmm. which I did in a pharma company. And the aim was to stay 3 months. And actually, I would say we liked each other and they stayed 8 years.
That's a very great story.
Yeah.
What clicked about business for you? Like, why were you interested in becoming a businessman then eventually after already being a doctor?
I felt by having a medicine degree and working in a pharma industry really helped me perhaps to first leverage both experiences and both competencies, mm-hmm. but also be able to have a broader reach. Yeah. In terms of bringing new solutions, treating patients, and so on. So I just felt this is great, actually, because I can be a scientist leveraging my medical competencies, but also doing it in a much broader way.
A perfect combination in that sense.
Exactly.
You also worked on 3 different continents in so many different countries. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, what is sort of the common thing across all of these countries? How has this shaped you to go so international and be a very global citizen yourself, so to speak?
Yeah. No, it's very true. And they have a very personal drive, perhaps, to go to different countries, different cultures, to discover these countries, discover these cultures, understand them, and be part of actually these ecosystems. And in my experience, I consistently really learned everywhere where I went. They always discovered something new. It always opened my mind on different ways to see things, but also different ways to do them. Therefore, for me, it's really a building blocks in terms of who you are at one point of time. And in my experience, it's super enriching, actually, to go from country to country, from culture to culture, and just to be open-minded and to learn about these countries and learn about, even if it is different from how you see it or how you used to do it, is always a learning experience and is always enriching.
But often that also means working harder, being uncomfortable, out of your own comfort zone. And many of our guests, they said that this immigrant mindset, if you come from the outside to a country, it sort of forces you to work harder, to put in more work. Does it also make you a better entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I would say going from country A to country B, if you want to succeed in country B, it's always uncomfortable. Yeah. Because you arrive in a framework which you didn't know before, with habits and ways to do things which are new to you. And therefore, the only way to succeed is to be in an uncomfortable situation, but also to be open-minded and to learn from it. And I would say what at least personally drives me is if I take a project, I want the project to be successful. This is my aim and this is my goal. I don't have any other goal, actually.
That's it. A real
If I
focus.
take a project, I want the project to be successful, regardless where.
Yeah.
And if it is uncomfortable for me, it's just a part of doing it and doing it well.
Absolutely.
And this is really my drive.
I see that. That's a real entrepreneurial drive. Let's talk about your company, Oculis.
Yes.
Oculis was founded in 2016 by two Icelandic scientists, but it was incorporated in Switzerland. Why is that the case? Why was Switzerland chosen as its headquarter?
Yeah. So as many things in life is circumstances. So I met with the two co-founders, Einar Stefánsson and Thorsteinn Loftsson, when I was in Novartis Venture Fund. And these two co-founders who are scientists, one retina specialist who is an ophthalmologist and one chemist and a pharmacist, they were from Iceland. And they came to us to Basel. I was in Basel. And they came to us to Basel to present their case and to look for investors. And because I spent time in ophthalmology before, I was asked by my boss to see them, try to understand what they have in terms of project and see if there is a fit in terms of potential investment. And when I saw them, I really understood that, yes, it was very early, it was still hospital project and so on, but they had something which really can address an unmet medical need, which is very big, where we can bring a solution to millions of patients who need this potential solution. And therefore, we discussed internally in Novartis Venture Fund, and we decided to invest. And one of the part of the investment was, okay, we are going to invest, and Riad will be joining you as the CEO of the new company, and the company will be established in Switzerland, basically.
Okay, so it was part of the deal in that sense.
It was part of the deal. Yeah.
And I also wonder, you had a very great career at Novartis, right? Probably a great corporate job, great salary, stability. What made you then switch gears and say, hey, I now become CEO of this startup where the risk is probably way higher than working and continuing at Novartis?
Yeah. So basically, it's multiple things. First, I spent the longest part of my professional life in two big companies. The last one was Novartis, and they have to say, we do not realize how much we learn in big companies, because when we leave the school, we learn something, but actually it's really the practice and being close to more senior people than you, where you learn real life and real things. So I would say spending time in a big companies is a great learning experience and no regret about that. In the same time, at one point of time, you want to do things by yourself, or you want to be in the driving seat, basically. And the difference between a big company and a small company, it's just a small company, you are really in the driving seat. And this was my drive, basically, to join a small company. And in fact, already in Novartis, when I was in Argentina, we established a small company, a startup in Argentina, which is today the number one vaccine company in South America. So I did something else before Oculis. And it was always my hobby or things I really love is establishing companies and making them successful, actually. And Oculis was the second one, is the second one, and I hope we will make it very successful.
I love that. It really also shows what you described before, right? While living in different countries, on different continents, working on different projects, you really are an entrepreneur through and through. So it was calling you back, so to speak.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's talk about Oculis. You tackle several ophthalmic diseases. First of all, describe us a bit more. What are they and how were they treated before Oculis was born?
Yeah. So basically, in the definition about Oculis, so Oculis used to be a topical company till the end of the last year.
Okay.
Now we are broader than that, actually, and I will speak about one discovery we did, and we announced the result in the very first week of January, which are really transformative. in terms of the company, because the company became or is becoming much more broader than just topical ophtha, becoming at least ophtha, but also neuro-ophtha, and I will speak about it. But just back to Oculis. So Oculis has a portfolio of product with 3 clinical stage products. When we call them clinical stage, it means that they are already in human testing.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 clinical stage products. Our first product is called OCS-01. So OCS-01 is the very first product which can treat retinal diseases. So in the back of the eye, in the what we call a posterior segment of the eye, where we have our retina, with an eye drop instead of an injection into the eye. It's really a needle into the eye. And in fact, I launched one of the first injectable in the eye. These products are good and they work very well. However, when you say to a patient, I need to inject into the eyes, always,
of course,
not the things we like.
Not what you would ask for or hope for, yeah.
No, and actually, when you say to a patient, you have this disease and they need to inject your eye, the very first question patients will ask you in almost 100% of the cases, or 100% of the cases, they will say, do you have an eye drop, doctor?
Yeah.
And you say, no, sorry, I don't have. And they will say, okay, do you have a tab or something like this? They say, no, sorry, I don't have. I need to inject your eye. And it's very difficult, actually. And what it means that, and we have the data in US and Europe, we end up in a situation where less than the half of diagnosed patients are treated.
Wow, that's a lot of potential.
Exactly. So therefore, OCS-01, which is this topical product, eye drop product for retina, can really treat millions of patients who are not treated. And it is important to treat them early, because when we treat patients early, we help them to avoid vision loss.
That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And they stay independent, they can work, they can take care of their family, they can enjoy their life. So it's really important. So therefore, OCS-01, which is now in a phase 3, which is the last clinical trial before registration. So it's really the last human test before registration. The study is going extremely, extremely well, and therefore let's see the result. We are confident because the product was tested 4 times before and consistently show efficacy and safety. So we are confident. Let's see the result. But this product, if approved, will really transform completely the life of patient by being able to treat easily, treating faster, and immediately as soon as the patient is sick, we can treat the patient and avoid vision loss. So this product will be materially transformative for a patient. The second product, which we just announced a result in January, actually. So we have been looking for many, many years, and not only us, like into the scientific community and industry, for something which is neuroprotective. And what we call neuroprotective is a product which can protect neurons from dying. Because the neurons, which are different cells, and these are the only cells in the body which cannot regenerate themselves. So if you lose them, it's over.
They're gone.
For example, if you take liver, you can remove even the half of the liver. The liver will be able to regenerate itself. Brain does not regenerate itself. So therefore, it is really important. And we have many diseases, like endless of diseases where they are driven by this situation. So OCS-05, we did clinical trial on OCS-05 in an indication which is called acute optic neuritis. And acute optic neuritis is acute inflammation of the optic nerve. It touches young people. The average age is 33, so it's very young, and is rapid vision loss. And what happens today is we regain the vision, but we completely lose contrast vision. So these are the people who, if you show them letters with a very high light, they can see them, but they cannot drive, they cannot read newspaper, and so on. So it's real unmet medical need for very young people. In general, by the way, 2/3 are women. So therefore, you really end up with having very young mothers with this handicap, which is a real handicap. So therefore, and we did this trial because in this indication for 2 reasons. One, because this is a real unmet medical need, and we wanted to test our biology and to see if we can have a solution. But the second is a very good concept to apply to multiple clinical applications in ophthalmology and in neurology. And I am more than happy actually to say that the trial was positive in a very clear manner. Like the results are so good that they are so good. I can tell you personally that they are so good that I asked the biostatistician to rerun the numbers twice because I cannot
This
believe
can't be.
it's how, like I don't believe these numbers. This is too good to be true.
Yeah.
And we truly rerun everything twice and actually no, it's good. It's real.
That's a real breakthrough.
Exactly. So therefore, this product will be now advanced rapidly, but this really changed completely. On one hand, Oculis as a company moving from topical ophtha to ophtha and neuroscience. So it's big. But more than Oculis, actually, this discovery is bigger than Oculis because this discovery will help us to treat millions of patients where we do not have any treatment for them. So it's really, I would say, if this product advances, and this is our goal, and hopefully the next trial will be positive and again, it will really change the life of millions of patients who today do not have any.
Huge potential.
Oh, amazing.
Development process, right? This takes many years. This is a long journey. That's also a big challenge for a company like yours because you need to fund, you need to develop, you need to research, and you don't generate the full potentially revenue that you could get, right? How do you balance that? How do you make that work? Because that's, a long development cycle and a lot of investment and funding that you need to pour into that to make it or not make it in the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is the life of a startup. Life of a startup is a company with a portfolio and hope to deliver something material and concrete one day once approved. But during multi-years, we do not have revenues. So therefore, the only way to make it happen is we work in partnership with investors who support us. And actually investors in healthcare are special investors because they are here for a long period of time. Because this is, as you perfectly said, and I completely agree with you, this is a long cycle. And you need dedication, you need dedicated investors, and investors really with the purpose, most probably not only to have return, but also to participate in something which is broader than return, which is really helping, bringing new solutions and new drugs and treatment to patients.
Absolutely.
And we are lucky we have this type of partners who support us and so on.
How did you convince them to join you on this long journey? Because they also need to have a very long time horizon to make it work together and to stick together. How did you convince them? I think you raised more than $280 million in funding rounds.
Yeah.
How do you convince them to embark on that journey together?
I think all the investors who joined us really saw in Oculis true breakthrough technologies, which will change the life of patients. They saw also a portfolio, which is de-risk. We really were able to de-risk the portfolio. Like in very early stage of the company, we decided we will not go only with one product, which might be successful or no, and therefore it's binary. We really wanted to build up a portfolio which help us to mitigate the risk. And we were able actually to advance our portfolio and mitigate the risk with the multi-asset. So I would say what Oculis offers is an advanced de-risk portfolio with true breakthrough technologies, which really can change the life of patients. And when you see the value which could be created with this portfolio is huge, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you were also the only Swiss startup that went public in 2023. So you did an IPO. I wonder what motivated you to do this decision, because it felt like you were still developing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have the revenues, etc. You didn't have the product life yet. That seemed to be very early from the outside, but I'm sure it made a lot of sense. So I was wondering what motivated that decision.
No, it made sense for us at that point of time. And why? I will tell you why. Because in general, when the products are moving to phase 3, first they are pretty de-risked.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a portfolio moving to in phase 2 and moving to phase 3, then you have something which is solid, which is reliable, solid. And even if one thing will not work, the second will work. And therefore, somehow it will work out. I am convinced, actually, it will work out. But I would say the cycle of the company is really important in terms of IPO. And why IPO is important? Because it's easier and faster for public company to raise more money, and you can see it in our history. Actually, I think in total we had We raised slightly more than 300. We raised 200 as a public company and 100 as a private company. So it's easy to see that as a public company, you can raise more. And because phase 3s these are big trials, like for example, our phase 3 is we will have between 700 to 800 patients. So therefore, these are big trials, which are expensive, of course. And as a private company, it's more difficult to raise this amount to be able to finance your big phase 3 trials before commercialization. So therefore, the timing was right. The period, as you perfectly said, was tricky. Very happy that we succeeded. And we succeeded very well. I'm very happy with our stock. I'm very happy with the performance. And I discovered only in December that we were the only Swiss company.
I think it's really impressive. You did like around 130% performance since you IPO. That's like super impressive in this short amount of time.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. And I think this is just the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also wonder, I talked to a founder the other day, and he basically said they went public in London and then delisted again because he said, as a startup, when you're in the value capturing phase, IPOs make a lot of sense. You want to get all the money in, you want to make good revenues. But when you are in the value creation phase, there it's more tricky. The stock market might not be the best fit. How did you build up the story that, you know, with everything you had in the making, but still lacking the revenues, that it was still a good story for investors to join you? Because that was a huge amount of work, I assume, to convince investors to buy your public stock.
Yeah, no, totally. Educating the market takes time, which is not normal. And educating the market with new technologies which are not known takes even more time. Now, the market understand also that there are milestones which are de-risking milestones which help you to show that the value is increasing because the probability of success is going up. And therefore, this is really the work we do with our public investors and the market in general and analysts. And we have a multiple report from analysts also who help us because they are third parties and they can bring their angle and their view as well. But I would say what really helped us to show the value, and again, I really believe is the start of the start, actually, in terms of Oculis. I am very confident, actually, about O1, O2, and O5, which is the neuroprotective drug. And we have been able for the last 2 years, 18 months, to do 4 clinical trials. 4 clinical trials were positive. So therefore, what this means, it means that our portfolio is advancing, is very close to market now, and our portfolio is being de-risked. And therefore, investors recognize this value and they are willing to buy our stock and continue to help us to bring this product to the market.
I think the keyword is de-risking, exactly what investors look for, right? Everything that helps them to be more confident and to see less of a risk in an investment is very attractive to them.
I think what we offer as a company, we offer a portfolio, which is not common. No? And it was our strategic position to say, no, we are going with a portfolio. And it was not common, and it's not even the trend. But we said, no, we want to have a portfolio because we believe that in clinical development, you have risks, which is just fact.
Of course.
And therefore, the only way to address them is first by doing extremely well your work first. So therefore, perfect execution, which is really important. And the second, to mitigate the risk of the product by having a portfolio. And we really focus on both, making sure that you execute perfectly, making sure that you have a portfolio of products which are differentiated, innovative, and truly responding to a true unmet medical need, but not just a technology without an application. The right technology with the right application.
Makes a lot of sense.
And it worked out.
I love this de-risking strategy also there to have the portfolio, because from an investor perspective, again, that's way more attractive. It's a bit like a 2 or in your case, 3 for 1, right?
Yes.
And on the other hand, how do you do that operationally? Because I imagine to run a company with 2 or 3 products, that's also probably a trade-off on a bit of a level at least, where you say, hey, instead of focusing on just one thing, you have to split your teams and your resources on multiple things. How do you balance that? Is that sometimes a challenge for you?
It is a challenge to manage multiple products. Now, it is a challenge if you don't know what you are doing or if the strategy is not clear. I think it is not a challenge if the strategy is very clear, if you have a very clear prioritization. And we really spend time in making sure that our strategy is very clear, the prioritization is very clear, and the team And also in the same time, you have the right team. And they're very happy in Oculis. We have a great team in all functions. I mean, I'm really lucky to have the team I have. They're extremely capable, extremely strategic, but also very focused on execution. And also our strategy is very focused, actually, even with the portfolio. We are very focused on high unmet medical need, very strong focus on execution for the right clinical trials. And we have been able, the last 4 clinical trials were positive.
I mean,
and not a surprise. It just
yeah,
the right strategy, right execution, and focus.
the results speak for itself,
Exactly.
basically.
Exactly.
Together with Talent Cake, Swisspreneur just released its 5th masterclass. This time on how to create the ideal team framework with your co-founders to ensure future success. It's based on Talent Cake's Founders Agreement. We've got Talent Cake's CEO Viviana Groppengieser, Yokoi co-founder Melanie Gabriel, and Scandit co-founder Christoph Roduner giving you their first-hand experience on how to align the goals of everyone in your team, how to split roles and responsibilities, and why equity, vesting, and investment are topics you need to discuss from day one. It's an intense team-forming bootcamp, and it's available for free on our website. Click the link in the show notes to start watching it now. You did list your company through a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. There was a huge boom in those going public SPACs, basically. But then there was also some criticism about a lack of transparency and being a bit overhyped. What was your experience with that? How do you see it today?
So you are totally right. And we ask really ourselves, do we do a SPAC or no? And I think 2 or 3 things helped us to make our decision. One was the right timing for the company to go public.
Oh.
The second one, while you are totally right on what you said about the SPAC, the SEC in the US really changed a lot in terms of due diligence on the SPAC. And we went through a process which was an IPO process in terms of due diligence. So we felt that we had this compliance review, solid compliance review, which happened. So therefore we felt is good. But early days is totally right what you were saying. And the third, the sponsor of the SPAC, who is Equity Health, which is a big player in healthcare investment, is a very high quality investor. So therefore, really, these 3 components of the right timing, the right partner, very high quality partner, and actually having the regulator taking care of making sure that the right thing are being done, help us to make our decision.
Yeah, got it. That sounds only logical from the outside now. Now, having done the IPO, being a public company, what would you say are the advantages and disadvantages of being listed?
Yeah, I mean, advantage is you are known, you are a public company, you are known, you have a broader pool of investors, you have easier access to investors. So therefore, there are many advantages. Disadvantages, you need to spend more time to educate a broader pool of investors, I would say, while if you are private, you have just your board and your small list of investors, and I would say it's easier. For a private company to manage is most probably easier than a public company, because a public company comes with exposure and so on. But personally, I like it.
It's a great challenge also, I
I like it, yeah.
And I wonder what changed for you as a CEO since the IPO. Like, do you feel more stressed now where, everything you say or do is sort of perceived by the market and can send your stock price up or down?
I'm not stressed. And I'm not more stressed, actually. No, I mean, my focus is really on what we are doing. This is really where I focus. And I want to make sure, like, in the end of the day, the end goal for me is not being listed. Is not having today stock going up or down or whatever. The end game for me is to have a company which is profitable, a company which is best-in-class company in terms of revenues, in terms of profit, but also a company which is really truly serving the purpose of helping patients to see better and have a better life. And I think in my mind, if we achieve this, then the investors will be very happy because the market will realize this. The market will reward us and reward our investors. And to be totally frank, when our investors are rewarded, I'm very happy. I'm extremely happy because I feel that at one point of time, investor trusts you.
Mm-hmm.
And if this investor trusts you at one point of time, I feel responsible personally that this investor is rewarded one day.
Of course.
Because it's a trust as well.
Yeah. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, so therefore.
And I also love that perspective. The IPO, it's not the goal. It's sort of a means to an end to develop and get where you want as a company.
Exactly. Yeah.
In that sense, I also wonder, what did it mean for you personally? I assume you also had stocks in the company, probably still have, hopefully. And did the IPO also change something for you? Like, were you able to also put some of the money in your pocket, so to speak, to take off and compensate for the early risks you took?
So yes, I had stock, and I still have the same stock actually.
Great.
So therefore, I didn't exit at all because I really believe, I strongly believe, as I told you, that the value of the portfolio we have, and my conviction is tripled even, or quadrupled or more, with the recent data we had on our last candidate. So therefore, is great.
You're really long and bullish on the stock.
No, I am very
that.
bold on the stock. I think we are cheap actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also wonder, I love that you, as a Swiss company, you went public. I think this is so important for the ecosystem to A, show that it's possible, and to B, do it and then hopefully make it and then bring back everything, know-how, talent, money to the ecosystem and kick off this flywheel. Despite that, I wonder, you went public in the US, and why is it still a good sort of fit for you to have your headquarter here in Switzerland? I love that personally, but I just wonder, why were you able to keep it here and not move it to the US?
Yeah, I think most probably for multiple reasons. First, we have a great team in Switzerland. I like Switzerland.
That's great.
I'm not planning to leave Switzerland. So therefore, most probably these are the two drivers. Yes, of course, we could go to the US, and the US is a great country, and I like US as well for work. US is the first market for pharma. US has FDA, which is one of the top regulator in the world. So the US has a lot, and it's really not about the US. It's really about also our footprint in Switzerland, which is important for us and for me. And we will continue to stay in Switzerland. We will develop ourselves in the US, but we will continue to stay in Switzerland.
I love that. Yeah. Do you see any potential changes there? Now with a new government in the US that is also very protective about the access to the US market, etc. Do you see that this could also lead to challenges for companies outside of Switzerland, outside of US?
In our business, we are less exposed to these changes, political changes in the world, because we have products which are innovative, product where you cannot have the same, and product which really bring value to the society. So therefore, I am really not concerned at all. I think US government, or any government actually in the world, will see the value for their own population to have our portfolio available in their country. So therefore, I'm really not exposed.
I like that perspective because you have something very attractive to offer. So they can be happy to have you, not the other way around.
Exactly.
I like that. Now, if you look a bit into the future, you're now in stage 3 of the clinical trials. How much longer do you anticipate until we see your product in the market?
Yeah. So the lead program, which is really OCS-01 in diabetic macular edema, which is a complication of diabetes, the plan is to have the product in the market in 27. So therefore, this will be the first product. And then it will be followed rapidly by the two other products, O5 and O2.
Yeah. And what will your business model be? Will you sell directly to like hospitals, etc., or who will be your customers that you will serve in the end?
So it will really depend on the country. This is a country by country basis. In general, it will be pharmacy for topical, and perhaps for injectables, it will be hospitals.
Okay.
In general, it can be different based on the country.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I wonder what's next for you, Riad, outside of work, if that even exists or if it's so strongly intertwined.
Yeah, when you are an entrepreneur, work is your life and life is your work. So therefore, it's slightly different. So first, my goal is I really want to bring this product to market. And this is my goal. I really want our product to be available for patients. I want to see the smile on patient recovering the vision. And this is my goal, my just personal goal, which touches me and drives me and makes me wake up every morning. I really want this smile of the grandmother being able to play with her grandchild, for example, or something like this. So this is important for me, and this is the goal. The rest, personally, I work a lot as any entrepreneur. I travel a lot, but in the same time, I have a great team, so I enjoy our life. I have a nice family in Lausanne, so we enjoy the weekend. We enjoy the lake Le Mans, and we enjoy skiing. So there are
nice.
There are parts.
Wonderful.
Also, which are personal, yeah.
So to wrap up the conversation today, I also have some rapid fire questions for you. I'm just going to shoot them and you have to answer in one sentence maximum. First one, a very difficult one. Algeria, France or Switzerland?
Switzerland.
That's easy for you.
Yes.
Okay. Do you prefer making decisions alone or with a team?
Depend on the decision.
What is that you like to do alone?
Sometimes there are urgent decisions which just do not allow you to take time. And this is perhaps coming from my medical school, where sometimes you just need to take a decision. It's just emergency. So
right.
You just need to take a decision to address an emergency, and then you consult. So therefore, I as a decision maker, because I worked a long time in an emergency room, actually. And I really learned how to make a decision. And there are decisions where you can afford time. And if you can afford time, take the time.
Of course.
Because no downside, if you can afford. Zero downside to take the time to consult and make sure that you consult and you have the buy-in from your team. So therefore, it has both advantages.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just realize that you don't have time. So therefore, then it's better to take a decision. No decision is bad sometimes. So therefore, it's much better to take a decision, and you have always the right to revisit the decision if there is a new information. It's no problem.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Well said. What does money mean to you?
Money makes your life easier, but does not make you happy or unhappy. It really makes your life easier.
How often do you regret the decisions that you've made?
I don't regret a lot, actually, because I'm more focused on the future. I am really 100% focused on the future. The past is the past. I cannot change it. I have zero ability to change the past.
That's true.
So therefore, regrets is just you are losing time instead of taking it about thinking about future. So therefore, I have almost zero regret about anything. I am super focused on the future only.
Yeah, I think that's a very entrepreneurial thing as well.
Yeah,
many entrepreneurs are wired that way. And we already touched about what gets you out of bed in the morning. So I want to ask you a bit of a different question now to wrap up. Are you more of an early bird or a night owl?
A night owl. Night guy.
Well, that's when the great ideas happen, I guess. Riad, thank you so much for serving as a big role model for the Swiss startup ecosystem. I think it's wonderful to follow your journey and take it as an inspiration. And I wish you all the best of success and luck for the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Silvan. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.